Welcome to the Marlene Gaytan Podcast, where we talk about femininity, marriage, and controversial topics that make you see the world a little bit different. Today, we have a very special guest. This is Hal Miles. He's been a music producer for over 2 decades, and he is a genius and a true expert when it comes to music. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you. Genius, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, I'm Hal Miles. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast, Marlene. I was excited about it the minute you told me about it. So I am a new incomer to Houston. I've been here now for a year and a half, going on 2 years. Actually, it's closer to 2 years now as of June. And I come from Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. I love Virginia. It's beautiful. I love when I go visit. There's so much to see, so much to do. But welcome to Houston.
Thank you.
I've been here about 3 years, and the first year and a half, I still could not believe I moved to Houston.
Wow.
So you're probably in that adjustment phase, right?
Honestly, it felt like home the minute I got here.
Yes?
It reminded me where we're at. It reminded me a lot of my hometown, just the part that we're in. But then it's so much to do here. And I was born and raised in Petersburg, Virginia. Shout out to my hometown. And I just wanted to do something different now that I'm married, got kids. I just wanted them to have a different experience. So, so me and my wife just up and moved.
Yes. You have a beautiful wife. I know she has her own show and 2 beautiful girls. But, super excited to learn more about what you do. So tell us a little bit about your experience with music. How did you get into the music industry? What's your experience in the music industry?
Okay, so sure. So I was first introduced to music when I was 3 years old.
3 years.
Yeah, so my uncle was a DJ, and I would be right by his side when he would DJ all the family events. My grandmother was part of different organizations, and she did a lot of events, and he did the DJing. And I didn't realize at the time how much I was being exposed to music until I got older and realized, like, wow, my music journey started much younger, and my ear developed then. But when I got to high school, my freshman year, we had the option to learn music technology. And so we learned how to produce, we learned how to engineer. I was exposed to the studio. We had a studio in my high school.
Wow. I think high school back in the day was different. They used to have home economics, wood shop for the guys, and like even that, I wonder if schools are doing that today. I really highly doubt that.
You got to go to certain ones.
Certain ones.
Yeah.
Yes. So what was that introduction in high school when you were introduced to, hey, I can produce? What was that like for you?
It was a game changer. Honestly, I was hooked. I mean, I was losing sleep. I was staying up, learning, sneaking and downloading programs on the family computer. Back then you had dial-up. I'm showing my age, but you had to wait till everyone kind of went to sleep.
Yeah, I remember. The CDs.
Yeah, I had the CD burner. I was burning music and selling it at school. I think it's been long enough now. I can't get in trouble for that, right? So I was doing all of that. I was really into music, and I had all the programs on my computer at home, and I was just tinkering with it. And I think I started to take it very serious once I got to college and be more exposed to other people that was interested in music. But the moment I decided I was going to be a music producer, so I'm from Virginia, so we had Pharrell, Timbaland, the Clips that just came out with their album Lord Willing in 2002.
Yes.
And when I heard that album, that's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be like Pharrell.
What was it about that album that inspired you? Was it the beat? Was it the lyrics? Was it the vibe? What was it about that particular album?
I think it was, not to be too technical, but it was just the contrast between what the Clips were saying, what they were saying and talking about the streets, but the music sounded so happy and just upbeat, and it was just such a contrast. And I could relate to it because the city I come from, we have both of those dynamics. We have a dynamic where part of the city is hood, is people going through the struggle, but then the other part of the city is the suburbs, the part that I came from, but we only had a one high school system. So half of my friends were from the struggle, the hood. Half of them weren't, but we didn't know the difference. We're kids. So when I heard that album, I just immediately related to it, and I could understand it, and it just spoke to me,
Yes. Give me a little bit of the history of music, because I went a little viral because I have said publicly that I don't like rap and I don't like hip hop. But I'll tell you, I'm Mexican. I grew up on Spanish music. And when I came to this country, maybe the 90s, I remember like Tupac and some of the hip hop. But I feel like the lyrics have just changed drastically.
Right.
But walk me through, what was hip hop like in the 90s? Like how did it start?
So it's funny. Like, so my story is a little unique. My parents are a little bit older, right? So I didn't really grow up on hip hop until I got a little bit older. So my mother was into Janet Jackson. My dad was into Luther Vandross, Brian McKnight. So R&B, heavy, and pop music. The first rap album that I can remember that we had was P. Diddy.
P. Diddy, wow.
No Way Out.
This is in the 90s.
This is the 90s. This is 1997. So Biggie had recently passed. Tupac had passed before that. In '96. And so so I think it was either 96 or 97. Don't quote me. I'm not a history buff, but that's when I got into hip hop music. But I was exposed to it. We did have some other hip hop albums. We had Fugees, The Score. That's Lauryn Hill. I'm sure you've heard of Lauryn Hill.
Yes.
Miseducation. We had that in 1998. So I was introduced to more of the mainstream hip hop first, and then the first group that I took a liking to was Outkast.
Yes.
So Outkast, you had Rosa Parks, you had AT Aliens, Hush That Fuss, everybody move to the back of the bus. So Rosa Parks, right? So then I was hooked on Outkast. But then for Virginia, being from Virginia, 1999, 2000, that's when Pharrell showed up. And right before that, Timbaland had showed up with Aaliyah. So, and then Missy Elliott.
Yes.
And so that's what raised us.
Yes.
And so Virginia is known for music producers.
Yes. I do remember all of the artists that you talked about, even though I wasn't born in this country, but all that reminds me of high school.
Right.
So I do remember the songs and I remember the hits. And sometimes people say the lyrics today are awful. Well, I did a little digging, and I went back to some of the old songs. And let me tell you, Little Kim.
Yeah.
Okay. I went back to that song, and I'm like, oh no, the lyrics were kind of bad then too, right? Well, but not all of them.
So I agree. Look, I am not an apologist for hip hop. So hip hop saved a lot of people's lives. So hip hop developed in New York back in 1978. Okay. It started with house parties, and it was an opportunity for those people who were DJing to get these kids off the streets. So it started with, you have the four pillars of hip hop. So you got the MC, you got the break dancing, you got the DJ with the break beats. Don't, like I said, don't quote me. I'm not a history buff. So it started with them taking old songs, especially like a lot of rock and roll songs.
Yes.
And then the break that would happen between the hook and the chorus.
Yes.
Like it'd be like pop, 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 pop. And then they would take those breaks and loop them.
Yes. Okay.
Then the MC would get on the mic and rap over the breaks.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever heard of Curtis Blow, but these are the breaks.
Yes.
So that's what he's talking about, right? Yes. So it was an opportunity to get kids off the streets.
Yes.
They didn't have all these lyrics back then. All the lyrics back then in those times was all about who's the best MC. So I'm the best MC. You can't touch me. So it was a battle. Right. So rap battle still happens, but it branched off into this other thing. Then you have the B-boys and B-girls, which are the break dancers. That branched off into another thing. The West Coast really ran off with that, but it started in New York. And then what happened is, as we started making songs, it started catching on. First, mainly on college campuses. Rick Rubin, Russell Simmons, they started Def Jam. They started Def Jam right out of a college dorm. And so they was going to college radio stations to push the music. It was clean back then. It had to be clean, right? What happened was, later on, as the market developed, people started investing their own money into it, independent music. When you're investing your own money into it, you can make the music you want to make. Well, if I come from the streets and I got $50,000 to put in my music, and I got a rapper that I want to invest in, he's rapping about what he sees. He's rapping about my life. I'm a drug dealer, for instance, and that's kind of the story of NWA, right? With Eazy-E,
my husband's a big fan, yes.
Yeah, and Dr. Dre. They're rapping about their real life, and some of it was very positive, some of it was negative. I don't want to put any of it down because it's their truth, right? as that developed and took off, the music industry got a bright idea. Oh, we can make money off of this. You know, it's all about greed. And so that's where the money began to flow. And as a result, you know, these people really come from this background.
Yes.
So that background transferred over into an industry that's legal, but they were still doing illicit stuff.
Yes.
Hence, the rappers dying, the beefs, the negative lyrics, the disses, because hip hop was founded in dissing when the MCs would battle each other, but it escalated.
Yes.
So you have on one side you have this positive music that comes out, the conscious music, the Talib Kweli's, the Mos Defs, starting off, up in New York. Even before that, the De La Souls and all that. But then on the other side, you got the gangsters, and you got to remember, they're from the streets. They got the money to put into it.
Yes.
Music takes money.
Yes. It's funny you're talking about the dissing. In Mexico, it's the same thing. The cartels have music, and there's a lot of rivalry.
I've heard about that.
They will literally, they'll kill each other because of the music that they're rapping. So that was like the original origin of hip hop. And I think I remember, because I remember even the 90s, life was different. There was no technology. People used to go cruising in high school. Remember those days?
Yeah.
And so I feel like, life was a party. But let's fast forward to today, okay? Mm-hmm. Because like I said, I got a lot of heat because I said I don't like rap and I don't like hip hop, because I feel like the lyrics today have changed so much. Mm-hmm. The lyrics today, I want to say, especially for the young girls, they're overly sexualized, bent over, touch your toes. I know it's always kind of been a little bit of that. Remember, I like big butts. I do see that too, but I feel like it's just taken over to a whole other level. So I have this curse, and the curse is that I listen to the lyrics of every song. That is my curse. My husband's just like, oh, it's got a good beat. I'm like, but do you not hear what it's saying?
Yeah. So that's how most people are. But, just my personal opinion, I agree. I think the lyrics are a lot worse for what the mainstream is pushing.
Mainstream, yes.
So you can go online and find anything. We were talking about the different hertz that music is at. You can go right online and find healing music, chakra music. You can find hip hop that has a positive message. It's just not going to get pushed in the mainstream.
Yes.
Right? There's no money for a corporation to put behind it as of right now. But the mainstream is actually starting to get away from all of the music that's surrounding violence. When it comes to the women and the exploitation of women, so in the late 90s, early 2000s, hip hop heavily exploited women. Again, I'm not a hip hop apologist. Like that's what hip hop did. It was a very negative stereotype. A lot of the women were taken advantage of. And so when social media came along, women reclaimed their power, but they're still perpetuating the same negative stereotypes, except for this time they're making the money. This time they're in charge, but they're choosing to push these stereotypes as opposed to being exploited behind it. So it's kind of like taking your power back, but it's still perpetuating a very negative stereotype, where that in the hip hop music, excuse my French, but when men said bitches ain't shit,
yes,
now it's the other way around. Now the women are saying
men
ain't shit to reclaim their power. And so they are creating a generation of women growing up listening to that, thinking like, oh yeah, I just got to get my money, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, of course, it's all an individual journey, right? You can listen to that all you want, but it comes down to the individual. Do I want to live my life like this based on my experience? Is this really what life is all about?
Yes. And I feel like, history kind of tends to repeat itself, right? In the 60s, when rock and roll, Elvis was, outrageous, right? You have the 70s, right? Studio 54. Every generation is going to appeal to the young generation that kind of wants to rebel, and but I think it's also for profit. They realize, what, this works, let's just push it, because there is a lot of money to be made.
Right. Well, when it comes to music, and any music executive will tell you, they'll tell you they really don't have as much control over what's popular as much as they would like you to believe. Back in the day, there was only a few media outlets where you could push music through. So it was more of a monoculture, right? But I can put $1 million behind a song. Let's say it's the 90s. I can push it all the way to number one. After I've done pushing that song and advertising it, it'll fall right from number one to off the chart, because they didn't like the song that much but I can
Yes.
manufacture that hit so that we can make money off the shows, merch, etc. Today, because of the way music is consumed, even if you put money behind a song and push it to number one, it still might not make you any money because social media is going to use music the way they want to use it. They're using it in TikToks. They're using it behind, in background music as they make their content. They're exposed to so much music. You got a lot of underground music that
Yes.
makes it into the social media content and goes viral just for that one snippet, right?
Yes.
And so they don't have that much control over what gets pushed anymore. So now it becomes propaganda. What do I want people to think and how to feel? And it's more so that I think now than it was back then. I think back then it was more greed. I think now it's more about the messaging that they want to push and the propaganda. I think that's really what it's all about.
So speaking about messaging, what do you think about masculinity and just the music industry? Because I kind of think like rap and hip hop, it was like masculine, like tough guys, right? And today you have rappers that are wearing dresses. And I say this even in the Latin culture, I mean, you have, forgot the guy from the Super Bowl, Benito, right? So he's making out with the girl singer and then the guy singer, and it's like this agenda that's being pushed. But I don't think in the 90s you would see a masculine guy that would have gone for that. And
Right.
now it's like this gender fluid, but that has influenced music so much that you see it.
Right. Well, if you ever watch MTV, that started back in the early 90s.
With men too.
It started with Real World. It started with Road Rules. We had never seen, the LGBT community on TV as such until those reality shows. So I think it was more or less of an agenda and more of the LGBT community now fighting for their rights to be seen, to be heard. This has, everything has a cause and effect. So now you have the next generation after me. I'm a millennial. So now you have Gen Z who's been exposed to that. And now it's more normalized for them.
Oh, very normal.
So now when the Gen Z, Gen Z is, coming into their own, prominence and they're, becoming, stars, rappers, artists, actors, actresses, it's now normalized. Same thing with Hollywood. Towards the late 90s, I wouldn't say late 90s, I say more like mid 2000s to late 2000s, 2000s, pushing 2010, you started to see more LGBT representation in the media. So when you say like the masculinity in hip hop, I really think that's just a reflection of society as a whole when it comes to what we were exposed to, especially the kids in the 2000s, 2010s. Now they're in their 20s. So that's pretty spot on what you're saying. I think that's less of, I don't see that as an agenda with hip hop. I see that as the LGBT community fighting for their rights. It became normalized in the generation after mine, a little bit in my generation, but the generation after mine, and now it's being represented in media.
I feel like now it's absolutely everywhere. You're going to see it on, TV, music, movies. And I mean, remember like the Madonna, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera kiss at the, MTV Awards. That was always kind of pushed with women, but I feel like now it's being pushed with men, right? And some people say, it's a ritual with all these guys that have to wear a dress. And I'm just wondering why so many guys are now doing it. And you see the same trend.
I don't think it's that deep. I think a lot of the media execs are LGBT and they wanted to be out and about with it. And in order to be out and about with it, they had to fight for their rights by using the media as an influence. So these people were already in the LGBT community. It was just hush, hush, because you couldn't talk about it. Once it became normalized, then, I think that's what it's about. I think it's been normalized now for a good solid decade. I think now they're just doing it because that's because they're, that's their culture. It's not, if you were talking to me in 2010, I would say, yes, it's an agenda. But 2025, I think the agenda is finished and we move on to the next thing. If that makes any sense.
I will say that the agenda has definitely been indoctrinated absolutely everywhere. I don't know if you just saw, and I have to verify if this is true, the new movie Troy, the casting, right? Ellen Page is going to replace Brad Pitt in that movie. And in my mind, it's like, wow. But you can't.
No, I hadn't heard about that. I had to look at that up.
Ellen Page. I
know who Ellen Page is.
I watched. It's like a little girl that's now a guy. But it's like to change Brad Pitt, and it's not because it's Brad Pitt, but it's also because Troy. I mean, it comes from the Iliad. I mean, it's one of the most famous stories in history, but just that casting, I think you're right. The agenda, it has been finished. Absolutely. Okay, now let's get a little bit controversial, okay? So I have said, that I don't have a problem with all rap and hip hop. I have a problem with the lyrics. I have a
So do
problem
I.
with the artists that are sexualizing young girls. I have a
Right.
problem with the artists that are singing, it was pretty much just drugs, but really it's just, I call a lot of it is just poverty music lyrics. But here's what I mean by that. I don't like the frequency in the music. I feel like the frequency and the music has changed. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's always been, a higher frequency in order to sell music. So we were talking when we talked last time. We were talking about the 432 hertz frequency.
Yes.
So for those who don't know, the 432 hertz frequency, if you've seen it before, that's the frequency that you set the note A in, and then from there, all the other frequencies are in tune with that 432 hertz. So 432 hertz is a frequency that induces relaxation. It's a frequency that induces meditation. People say that that's a frequency in which you can heal. Now, of course, that hasn't been scientifically proven, but it has been scientifically proven that you do relax and you do fall into a more meditative state. When it comes to the healing, that's the thing. It's like, I have a good example, right? Like when you're in the shower, you get in the shower, you have the water on you, and all of a sudden your brain opens, you start being creative, you start having these cool ideas, you get these idea downloads. It's the same thing with the 432 hertz. So music that you hear on the radio, for the most part, it's not all exactly the same hertz, but they pretty much decided that it was going to be 440 hertz, which is a brighter sound. So you have two sides to it, right? You have the side that says, no, we decided that it's going to be 440 hertz because it's easier to divide. It's easier to put it at 440 and tune all the instruments, all the music to 440. Then you got the other side that says, no, it's an agenda. 440 is a very negative frequency to be on, and that they're using it to control the population. I think there's some truth in both, but all music isn't at 440 or 432. You have other hertz. You have a lot of orchestra music that's higher than 440.
Orchestra would be wonderful,
Right.
but there's nothing mainstream that is orchestra.
Except for the music. Orchestra became the music for the movies.
Yes.
So all the music you hear in the movies is orchestra.
Yes. But you know what? It's true, because yesterday I was playing a video with my kids and it was a scary movie. And you see in the scary movie, they changed the frequency.
Correct.
And that's how you know it's scary. Or that's how you know it's sad.
A fear-induced frequency.
Yes.
Right? So the frequency of 440, if you do your research, that's a slightly brighter frequency that makes your ears perk up. It's not a healing frequency, but it makes your ears perk up. Why would you want someone's ears to perk up? Oh, they're selling music.
Yes.
They need you to hear the song, go, whoa, what is that?
Yes.
And then go buy a ticket. So my theory is that they chose 440 to sell you music. It was born out of greed. Now, the effect that it has on you, I feel that way about a lot of the things that they sell us in America. They're less concerned with the effect and more concerned with how much
profit,
money they can make out of you. And that's a shame, right?
Yes.
But there are still artists who put out 432 hertz music, as well as other hertz that are more positive,
I
more
was trying to
relaxed.
find some artists, and honestly, they are hard to find. I think there's a couple Christian artists, but
It's a few.
every mainstream artist that I have found, and this is after the Michael Jackson era, because I
Right.
think he was like the last artist that's like, I'm going to get killed, but I will not change the frequency to my music. But I
Right.
feel like after Michael Jackson, everybody's frequency and music has changed.
Well, you have to be in the know, right? So I know a few artists. Like I don't know if you ever heard of Janae Aiko. Her music is 432 hertz. She purposely does it like that, and it's more soothing. And I'm a huge fan of her. I had to look up who does 432 hertz, but it's more of your R&B ish, like more of like conscious music that are choosing to
Yes.
use a frequency like that.
Yes. But I think anything that you're going to find in hip hop definitely will not be.
Only a few.
You
I mean,
know,
it's rare.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Honestly, most people don't even know about frequency and the hertz.
No,
They're just
no.
making beats. They're just rapping over it. They're sending it off, and the label is thumbsing it
Yes.
up. You know.
Yes. When I went down the rabbit hole of the frequency in music, I mean, it did start with the Rockefellers and they
Hmm.
discovered MK Ultra and it is mind control thing. But what's also really interesting is that all the cathedrals, back in the day,
Hmm.
they were built, really big. They had bells.
Hmm.
They were built to amplify music because music was healing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hospitals were built this way, cathedrals were built this way.
Hmm.
It wasn't just a worship center, it was a vibration because we're made up of vibration. So
Hmm.
a lot of scientists have taken music that's 432, you put it underwater and it crystallizes and it's beautiful. And I think that's why they call it nature's tune.
Hmm.
But then they take that same music and they use it with the water effect, and at 440 hertz, it becomes disruptive.
Right.
And I think a big reason why it's because not only does it get people, yes, you're buying more albums, but I think it also numbs people.
Hmm.
But I think what a lot of people don't know also is that it also makes you sick. That
Mm.
frequency also makes you sick. So there is frequency healing. So a lot of people, believe, and I mean, very rich people, they go
Hmm.
into the ocean and they get frequency healing
Hmm.
with whales, or beekeepers that get frequency healing with bees. Those people live a long time,
Right.
but the frequency has changed along with everything else in America for profit.
Yeah. So when it comes to that frequency, it's partly for profit. It's partly, I don't want to use the word mind control because that's not what I believe. I believe it's when you instill anxiety in someone, when you instill that type of alerted state, you keep the population at a certain place where they are continuing to go along with the programming, aka shopping, aka going to work,
Yes.
aka following the rules, right? So, you know, because at the end of the day, and this is my belief, this is my theory, just like with the food, just like with the air, just like with the music, with anything else, the goal is to keep you from rioting.
Keep
The
you from
goal
writing.
is to keep you from getting a bright idea.
Absolutely.
That's the goal, right? So
Yes.
it's less about mind control and more about
Just the numbing.
systems. Because I like the quote Men in Black. A person is smart, people are dumb. What these frequencies and what the food and everything does is it keeps the people dumb. It doesn't keep the
Yes.
individual. It doesn't keep the person dumb. Me and you can sit here and have this podcast, and we can talk about these things, and anyone can watch this from people at the top to people at the bottom, and they have no problem with us having this conversation on the podcast because just like reading a book, right? Who's going to actually use the
That's
information?
right.
10% of you guys use the information. That's fine.
Yes.
It's controlled rebellion, right? I don't know if you ever watched The Matrix, the movie The Matrix.
Yes.
So Neo, spoiler alert, Neo was a part of the system.
Hmm.
You have a group of people that don't want to be in the Matrix, fine. We'll control you outside the Matrix.
Yes.
And
Mm.
that's what we're doing right now with this podcast.
Yes.
We're the side that can't be controlled, but we're still part of the system. We're part of the system through not being part of certain parts of the system.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
And you know what? And I think that's why for a lot of music, I do call it poverty music
Hmm.
because it's designed to keep you in that same cycle. It's not
Hmm.
inspiring. It's not elevated. It's not going to get you to, think outside the box or
Hmm.
change the vibration. It's going to kind of just keep you in the same environment. And I think this is why, classical music was so big back in the day. And I will say that a lot of the wealthiest people, they listen to classic, and I don't think a lot, some young people will be like, oh, it's because it's for rich people. No, I think it's
Hmm.
because they know. I think it's because they know the frequency of the music
Hmm.
gets them in an elevated state. They're more inspired
Hmm.
to receive more ideas. They're vibrating higher.
Hmm.
So I always say, if you can have, an upper or a downer, why not, an upper or more enlightened, right? So, but I
Hmm.
tell people, honestly, music is music, but I do say listen to the lyrics because I'm a firm believer that what you say out loud is 10 times more likely to become true.
So this is true. So I have a funny story about that. So I made this song called Fashion Holic with the artist named Buffy, the Buffy the Fashion Slayer. And so in the song, the lyrics, so I'm a fashion holic, this that you can't walk out the mall with. So we went to the mall to go shopping to find some outfits for his music video. And we went to like 3 or 4 different stores. We're like, man, we can't find anything. And then literally as I'm walking, I'm like, I was just explaining to him, I'm like, I know this. We said we can't find anything in the mall.
Wow.
So after we said that, we went and looked at 3 more stores, couldn't find anything. Left and went to the first thrift store, found everything we needed. We spoke it already in the song, but then we weren't even obeying our own lyrics by saying, I can't go to the mall to get your outfit. You literally said you don't shop out the mall in the song.
Wow, that
So
is so powerful.
yeah, so it's your lyrics, and this I'm a big proponent of this. Music is spiritual.
Yes.
The lyrics you're saying out your mouth is the beginning, is the second step to manifestation.
Yes.
First you have the thought, then you speak it.
Yes.
The moment you speak it, it's already out in the universe.
Yes.
You can't pull it back. Now you can wiggle your way out of it. You can take different turns, based on your actions, because every action has a reaction. But the minute you put it out there, the universe is already reverberating it back to you.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny because I've always said that I have lucky girl syndrome. Okay, I just believe it. But I always tell girls that I don't subscribe to heartbreak songs. I don't subscribe to sad songs of like, he left me or this or that. Since I was a kid, I would not, because my curse is I listen to the lyrics. So if I am not the muse, I will not listen to it. Like that's just my rule. So, and a lot of artists, the songs are heartbreak. But if you're singing it out loud, like you said, you are attracting that frequency because words are that powerful. In my house, we have a rule. Any bad affirmation is 10 push-ups. So like we'll be in the dinner table, oh, I can't do this. Oh, 10 push-ups.
Wow.
It's 10 push-ups. It's 10 push-ups because I'm trying to get my kids the conditioning of like, don't say anything that's bad because it carries weight. It's 10 times more likely to come true. That's why I say I would rather you say things that are outrageously great because you're going to attract that as well.
Right. I 100% agree with that. We try to get ahead of affirmations too. I think I'm gonna incorporate your idea. My daughters get older. I can't do that.
10 push-ups.
10 push-ups. I love that.
Yes.
I used to do exercise for punishment when I was younger. I do something or talk back or do something disrespectful. It's push-up time. Get against the wall, do a squat.
Yes.
And you got to stay there. Like we did, and it's positive punishment because you're getting stronger, and then you're realizing that that's what I feel when I do something that I shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
That's a bad character trait, right? So I love that.
Yes. And it is a conditioning too, because sometimes like we'll be at church or out and about and my kid will call out the other one, oh, he said this, 10 push-ups. So in front of a crowd, they'll start doing the 10 push-ups, but it's always cool to see because the dads will hype them up. Yeah. 8, 9, 10, high five. They don't even know why they're doing push-ups.
Oh, wow.
But just the men are fired up that they're doing push-ups. So
Gotcha.
I always find that so funny.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. But yeah, like you said, the music is it is spiritual. And that's something that I really push for people who are getting into music, the younger generation. The older generation, as they matriculate, as they get older, they start to realize like, wait a minute, I should have known this. And honestly, my experience being in the music industry, behind the scenes, people talk. People have these conversations. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the studio and it turns into a spiritual conversation.
Wow.
And then you start to find out not just what people believe, because everybody has their own individual beliefs, no matter what your religion is, but you start to find out that they start talking about the sciences behind certain things. They know about the speaking into existence. They know about the frequencies, the ones who've been doing it a while.
Yes.
And then they have to make the conscious decision of, okay, I'm doing this full time. I still have a family to take care of. And then it becomes an ethical thing, it becomes a moral thing. Like, do I continue to make this music? How do I justify this?
Yes.
And, for different people, their morality, their ethics, all are, in different spaces depending on who you are. It's funny, I can sit here and say, I would never do that. But that's because it doesn't work out for me. I will sit here and watch someone else who's on a different frequency, who's a different person, do the exact same thing, works totally fine for them. But that's the frequency that they're on. That's truly who they are as a human being.
Yes.
And you have to know yourself.
Yes. And for people that think, well, it's not spiritual, well, the archangel was the angel of what? Music.
Right.
So wouldn't it make sense that you would use music and media to influence culture? So for I think a lot of the young people, if they don't, know history or maybe don't know anything about, spirituality, how would they know that? To them, it's just a dance, right? It's a trend.
Listen, when it comes to information in this day and age, I don't, what's the best way to put this? I don't give anybody slack. You can go on your phone and find out the truth. Anyone who wants to know anything about anything, I'm not going to sit here and blame the parents. I'm not going to sit here and blame the kids. I'm not going to sit here and blame the community. Everybody got access to information now. You got ChatGPT now where you can ask the question directly.
Yes.
And then do your research from that.
Yeah.
So, now of course, the only caveat I would give is that it's exposure, right? If you're not exposed to these things, I understand. But the minute you get exposure to it, now you have to make an individual choice. Am I going to learn about these things? And then when I learn about them, am I going to change my own ways because of this new information? Am I going to cut that music off or make a different type of music? Or am I going to continue to listen to that music because that's really who I am and I don't want to change? You have to make that decision, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to spirituality and music, I encourage anyone to look up the history of music, look up the history of spirituality, look up like I said, you have all the religious stories, from the archangel, like you said, Lucifer, to that's not just the only story. There's other religions who have very similar stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
we understand that music is a frequency.
Yes.
Everything has a frequency. Everything has a vibration in the universe.
Everything.
Everything was made
Yes.
initially from that vibration, right?
Yes.
That's what the Bible says. And any other book says something very similar, right? So if that's the case, then what makes you think that music is just something to dance to and something to listen to?
Definitely.
That doesn't go together.
Yes, definitely. You know what's really terrifying about AI, and we're going to move to AI, it's, well, first of all, the problem I have with AI is every media is owned by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it's the same people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the second thing with AI right now, there's a big controversy because a lot of the classical books are being bought by AI, and they're saying we're buying them to put them in the system. But I really believe that in the future, if books are being rewritten, most schools books are written after 2012. So if books are being rewritten, I think people are going to just go based on whatever AI says. So whoever owns AI also controls the narrative. People don't really go to libraries, and I would say a lot of libraries, they're not keeping the books that have been there for thousands of years.
So, okay, so that's kind of like so that's a two-edged sword, right? So we say you mentioned the people who own the AI will be in control, but in control of what? Because once AI crosses a certain threshold, they won't be in control either. So what are we working towards when it comes to AI? I have my own theories about AI, and I had a dream about AI, about the future that I believe we're headed into.
Tell us. I want to hear about your dream.
Mine wasn't negative at all. I actually had a very, I don't know if I want to call it positive, but in my dream, the whole Earth was inside of so I saw the Earth, and the whole Earth was inside of this hexagon type of force field, right? I don't even call it a force field. I don't know what it was, but going around this hexagon type of sphere around the Earth was an eye, and it was like going like this really fast, and it was just looking at everything. And so when it zoomed in, I saw the people, and everybody was doing what they were doing. And anytime somebody had a thought to do something that the people didn't agree with, they couldn't do it. So if you had a thought like, "Oh, I don't like this person, I want to punch him," then everybody else said, "Nah, I don't think you should. We wouldn't like if you punched him." And it's like, "Oh, okay, I guess I can't punch him." That's what it looked like to me. So it looked like the collective consciousness of human beings were all deciding at the same time through AI on how each individual person was going to behave. But we were all in agreement to it. So we were the ones telling.
So there's no more individualism. It's just one collective whole.
Yeah, it was almost like we were all part of one body.
Yes.
Like the cells in our body right now, we were all individual. Like individual. Let's say I'm making music, I'm going to the studio, I'm performing. But if I have a thought outside of that the collective doesn't agree with,
it gets shut down.
It gets shut down. Yes. I don't get to act on that thought. Yes. That's the dream I had. I don't know if that's going to come true. I have no idea. But it wasn't AI telling us what to do. It was us
Consciousness.
collectively telling each other what to do through AI,
Yes, yes.
right?
What do you think the music industry will be like in the future with AI? Because, I mean, you have now, a technology that can do everything a human can do and maybe do it even better and
Mm-hmm.
faster and instantly. What do you foresee with jobs in the
Mm-hmm.
industry and, future creations?
I see everything going acoustic. We are already rejecting AI music. People are uploading it very, very quickly, and I think AI music is going to be used mainly to come up with ideas and for background music. Like you gotta just like with um, the digital creation of video. It's like, oh, I need a song that plays, has like a sad part for this song, for this
Hmm.
video. So AI is going to kill the sync industry. That's why I see. So sync is when you get paid for your music to play in movies and TV
Oh.
shows and commercials and podcasts. That's what AI is going to hurt. So it's going to be just cheaper to go get an AI song and throw it in the background, an instrumental, than it would be to hire someone. And so I don't see a way around that. But when it comes to the oldies but goodies and the hit records, you're going to still want to pay the artist. A song come on, your movie come on, and you want that James
So you
Brown song.
foresee that we're still going to have human artists, not just robot
Yeah, we're
artists.
already rejecting it. So
Oh.
now people, so with the new generation, right? CD sales are up, vinyls up, cassettes is up. People want to go to the concert, buy the T-shirt, see the artist live.
Really?
We're going to go back to acoustic. So when I say acoustic, I mean in person
Mm.
instrumentation. Oh yeah, it's already being rejected.
I'll tell you, the only reason why I would buy vinyl records is because those still had vibrations.
They do. Again, they're not practical. When you're in your house, you can put a vinyl on. You're in a party, you can put a vinyl on. But you can't like get in your car and ride up,
Yeah,
buy
I'm
a
like, I don't
vinyl.
think I have seen vinyl
Right. So
anywhere.
you still have to choose to either stream or download the song so that you
Okay.
can listen to it in the car, right?
Yes.
Unless you want to like install your own CD player, which I wouldn't do. I wouldn't want to take my radio out to put a CD in. But the new generation is already getting more and more into acoustic. I don't know if you ever heard of the it's like a hand drum, like this circular drum, right? I think it's called hand a hand pan or something like that. And it plays all these notes, and you can make a whole song from this drum. They're very expensive, but the instrument came out maybe like 15 years ago, and I have to show you a picture later. And it's tuned into 432 hertz, and you make this beautiful sounding music. It sounds like the steel drums from Jamaica,
Okay.
and but you could play all the notes as well as do the tapping sound on this instrument. It's about this big, and it has these little circles going around it, and you just play all the different notes. And it's in 432 hertz, and they're making music with this and singing with it live and stuff.
Do you think that'll be more for the people that maybe are awakened or even looking into frequency? Or do you think that would ever be mainstream and you'll see teenagers doing TikToks to that?
So I have a theory about that. So you probably heard this before. We're in a very pivotal moment in the human story where we get to make a choice of whether we're going to go towards the awakened side or the not so awakened side, and everybody individually gets to make that choice. In the world where we're doing this podcast, we're talking about these things. We're focusing on that frequency. In the near future, I'm not a predictor. I don't do that type of stuff. I don't say in this year, that year. I don't believe in that. But in the near future, we're going to end up in a world where we're all awakened.
You think so?
Yeah, that whole other system is going to fall to the wayside because it can't compete with the information. It can't compete with the frequency. They're already like, I give you an example. Back to hip hop, they're already started to lose money back in 2023 to 2024 with that street music, to the point where it's not even on the charts anymore.
Yes.
People were afraid
Yes.
to go to the concerts. People were afraid to get involved. People were afraid to go to the studio. So what
Yeah.
happens? Now the corporations are no longer putting money into it because it's
Yes.
not making any money.
Yeah.
Majority of those guys got killed off by each other because they were beefing. Some of the biggest artists are now in jail or just got out of jail. When there's no money anymore in it, what happens? It fell off the charts. You look at the top 100 now; it's non-existent.
Mm.
So that frequency, it was no longer useful in this paradigm because the community, the people didn't want to buy it and purchase it anymore. we're the ones with the power. If we decide collectively that we don't want to listen to that type of music anymore, they will literally stop making it because it was made in the spirit of greed in the first place.
Yes. But I feel like that frequency, it's not just rap or hip hop. I mean, it's
Hmm.
pop. It's every
It's all of the
artist,
genres, yeah.
every artist that is mainstream today, and the way I see society today, it's like the Plato allegory of the cave.
Hmm.
They're enslaved looking at the shadows, but they don't see who's actually making the shadows. This is why I think it's so important to teach the next generation just history, and for anybody that maybe has an interest, to mentor the next generation, because I don't think that anybody's taking the time to actually say, hey, you know what, like you are the future,
Hmm.
so we're kind of counting on you, but
Right.
somebody has to be the mentor.
Hmm. I agree with that. Again, that comes down to the individual. I think I envision a future in which we're getting back to community. It's just, we had to go through this phase of human development and, make some mistakes here and there. We made a lot of these mistakes in the past. If you ever if you're a history buff or you look into the history of previous, civilizations, but I think as an individual and then as a collective, we can come out of this. I think we're right at the edge of being able to make that choice.
Yes.
And doing things like what we're doing right now is reverberating, is putting out the correct frequency,
Yes, yes.
right?
I have to say, Hal, I love your optimism.
I'm very optimistic, as you can tell, right?
Yes, yes. My husband is
Yeah.
super
Mhm.
optimistic,
Oh,
so
awesome.
I think that's definitely very inspiring. Inspiring.
So
So
are you the pessimistic one?
I'm not pessimistic. I'm a big history lover,
Hmm.
and I see trends in history.
Right.
So I think that, and what really worries me, I think it's just the school system, the 9 to 5 school system. Kids get 30-minute recess, I think,
Right.
and the books being rewritten. I don't think anybody that's young today is being taught the source of where things come from. They know history. Like my 9-year-old, he's like, why do I need to learn about what happened in the 1900s? He thinks that's history, the
Right.
1900s, but I mean, like, we're not going back to where the source,
Right.
where medicine comes from, where government comes from,
Hmm.
why we do the things that we do today, and how they're changing.
Right. And again, that information is now readily available, just like certain information was only in books. It is upon us, first to teach our kids, to take it upon us to teach the next generation. And as an individual, you should want to make that choice. Now that you understand, when it comes to the school system, we already know that's pretty much done. I mean, the school system, not to go too much into it, but the school system was created as a result of the Industrial Revolution. Parents started going to the factories to work. They needed somewhere where the kids to go. It wasn't just a local schoolhouse anymore. They needed to have a system. Parents get up at 8, kids get up at 8. Parents come home at 4, kids come home at 4. So, and as a result, and mind you, this is people sitting around coming up with this plan. We're preparing kids to go into the workforce to work for us.
Yes,
Factories, right?
yes,
We don't live in that society anymore. We live in a society of choice. We live in a society where you can have a 9 to 5, or you can work your business, or you can do e-commerce, or so the system that we're on, it's like I don't, even with me and my family, we're not exactly on that system. Even though we want our kids to be socialized, we have our own, schedules and stuff that and then we change at a whim depending on how things are going for our family and whether or not
yes.
we need to change. But the school system hasn't changed at all,
No,
right?
it
It's
has not
still
changed.
7 to 3, 8 to 4,
Yes,
and that's just an antiquated way of doing things with books that has old information.
yes,
The information is being updated on a daily basis, and kids need to learn how to navigate this new world with this new information. And saying, "Oh, well, throw away your phone. We need you to focus on this book." No, they need to learn how to do all of that. And I don't know what the school system is going to look like in the future, but I know a lot of teachers who complain heavily about the standardized way of learning that's not effective for everyone.
yes. Rockefeller and the founding documents of how the school system was created, they put $6 billion back in the day.
Hmm.
In the founding documents, he said, I don't want a nation of thinkers and poets and artists
Hmm.
and, scientists. He's like, I want a nation of workers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the system is designed for.
Right.
You know,
And it
I
hasn't
think,
adjusted in 150 years.
yes, I think that's a big reason why there's so many immigrants that come here and become millionaires. It's simply because they weren't indoctrinated with the mindset of, get a degree, get a job, a 9 to 5. An immigrant doesn't have that programming. They just think, I'm in America, land of opportunities. Let me
Right.
go start a business and, go become wealthy.
It's a bit more than that. The immigrant also doesn't have the racial programming either. The racial programming is a big aspect of why everyone is where they are and why they don't believe they can do it in the first place. The trauma that's in your DNA, the racial constructs that they created. Oh, white is this and black is that, and Asian is this and Hispanic is that. That's all belief. None of that is based in reality. You
And do
understand?
you
And
think
that
that
programming, huh?
is that programming coming from school?
No, that programming is 250 years in the making. That's a long line of programming.
Are they hearing this at home though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what I mean by it's a long line of programming. It's coming more from the parents and who came from their parents, who came from their parents, who came from their
I
parents,
see.
who came from their parents, who came from their parents. That's what I said. It's a long line of programming. The school system is just a reflection of that.
Got it.
That's the programming that happened in 250 years ago. And when you are an immigrant and you come to America, you didn't have that programming.
No, we did
You
not.
have a totally different type of
No,
programming.
the only programming we got was we sacrificed so much to bring you to this country.
Right.
So you better work your ass off and be successful.
Right. And that's a much better programming than the white man did this to me, therefore I am a victim.
Got it.
Totally different programming. Or those people over there don't
Yes.
work hard.
Yes. But
So
you know
they
what?
don't deserve the opportunities. That's all programming.
But that kind of reminds me about the words. The
Right.
words that are spoken, the words that are said,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Then you're right. I think we need a new generation of people that are going to, say something completely different so that we can have a different programming and different
I
outcome.
think it's happening.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
I'm not just optimistic. I'm seeing it on my algorithm. Now, mind you, that's me. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know what other people's algorithms look like. I know it can get dark on social media. I know it can get dark on the internet. And so, but the frequency is there,
Okay, good.
right? The choice is
That's
available.
good. Then, as my mentor would say, the future looks bright. The future looks bright. Yes. Hal, tell us, how can people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my handle is Nice Guy Hal. That's NICEGUY Hal, Hal. Like I said, I'm a nice guy. I can't help it. Even when I want to be mad, want to be angry, I just revert to my nice self. Now, mind you, when I say I'm nice, I don't mean I'm gonna let you walk all over me.
Yes.
I'm not that type of nice. But nice
But
guy
you're
Hal.
happy.
I am
Yes.
happy.
Yes,
I'm,
yes.
I'm a very happy person. I have my moments.
I say happy people make the world a better place, and it's the unhappy
Right.
that make the world a bad place.
Well, I have my bad days, but what makes me, stick with it is that I just have this, my spirit. I just have this uncanny ability to wake up the next day like yesterday didn't happen. Right?
Oh my gosh, my husband has that ability too.
Yes, it's a gift. I
Yes.
must say. People ask me, how do you do it? No, it's a gift. I realize now that that's just who I am.
Yes.
I cannot teach you how to be like that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So
And I will say that rubs off on you because my husband is like that. Anything can happen today.
Yeah.
He's going to wake up tomorrow and just be excited, happy-go-lucky.
Right.
So I think it was like 8 years ago, I decided I have to get with that program because it's people like that just live happy lives. So I decided I'm going to make myself happy. Yes. Well,
Gotcha.
thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Yeah.
I appreciate your expertise, sharing with us all of your knowledge, and tune in next week for the next episode.